Hello, magical humans. Happy New Year. This is the first podcast episode of 2026, and I'm just feeling already so lit up and excited about what this year has to offer. And some may say I'm a little late to the game here, but I tend to disagree. I want to dive into one of my favorite topics, all about manifestation and vision boarding, because several years ago, I really unlocked a key and a process for vision boarding that just blew my manifestations out of the water. And I want to share that with you today. I really love this time of year. I know that in our culture, it's a time for setting intentions and setting goals and visioning for the year ahead. And that doesn't necessarily align with what we're meant to do in this season. It's winter, it's a season of rest and recharging and integration and going inward. And I'm here for all of it, but I do really love using this collective energy at this time of year to really get in the vibes and manifest and really set my goals and my vision for the year ahead. And maybe it's nostalgic and maybe I just love it because I've always done it this time of year. But I just wanted to share that if you had grand plans in late December, as this is the year you were going to do your vision board and you were going to be on it, and you haven't done it yet, don't worry. Maybe you were just waiting for this episode to hit so you have a better process of doing it. But I also just believe we can do this anytime. And we often buy into this belief that, oh no, I missed the boat, might as well not do it. It's too late, whatever the story we might tell ourselves is. And that's just simply not true. And I actually started revisiting this process again in the middle of the year, and I love it because life changes quickly. Our desires and where we're going and how we're feeling changes based on our circumstances and what we're navigating and even just maturing into. And so I feel like this is something you could pick up anytime you're feeling inspired to do so. You have not missed the boat, and certainly not now, because I did learn something that is pretty interesting. And I'll just, I'm not the guru on this, so I did take a couple of notes, but I learned that this year in the Chinese kind of calendar, the year of the snake that we're in right now, actually goes until February 17th. So maybe you're just perfectly on time, but it runs until February 17th, and that's when we shift over to the year of the horse. And so from what I've read, this year is all about shedding and renewal and kind of slowing down a bit. And the year coming ahead is really beautiful energy coming in, new beginnings, a lot of really good sort of momentum and kind of forward looking movement. And I just thought that was interesting because I'm going to be speaking in a group, and she said, oh, wow, that's perfect timing if it's at the end of February, because that's when we're shifting over to this year of the horse. And I thought, oh, I love that. So you haven't missed the boat. And one of the things I really wanted to touch on is this idea that it's not about the things. It's not about whatever beautiful experiences or these material manifestations that you are dreaming up. And yes, go for your desires, absolutely. And if that's what's on there, great. But what really shifted this entire manifestation game and playing in the magic for me is paying attention to the feelings and underlying emotions. And so how I used to do it, which maybe this sounds similar to what you're doing now, is Or maybe not, I don't know, magazines aren't such a thing anymore, but either way, I used to gather a whole bunch of magazines, and I'd flip through and sort of look at the different pillars in my life, like, health, finance, career, experience, family, spirituality, like all the different aspects. And then I'd find images that sort of represented what I was hoping to achieve in each of those. And so it was really like a cerebral experience, like grounded in my logical thinking and my mind. And like I really filtered that through my lens of what my life circumstances are. And I saw this quote, something along the lines of like, a lot of vision boards actually just represent, a Pinterest version. So like a kind of like styled, beautiful, aesthetic version of our current reality rather than something that we're striving towards. And I thought that was really interesting because I looked back at some of my old boards that I used to do this way, and I'd say like it's kind of true. And also, I noticed that I was dreaming way smaller. Like I wasn't dreaming big the way I do now, that's really grounded and anchored and rooted in these like emotions and these values and these experiences that I'm calling in for a reason. Like there's a deep why and meaning behind it. And so I just thought that was interesting. So how I used to do it is get all these clips, put them in there, put words on there that I was like striving for or hoping to bring into my life and achieve. And that was my board. And maybe I'd revisit it once in a while. And like I kind of felt like, oh, well, I did it. Like, planting the seeds to the universe. It's manifesting, like it's going to come through. And yes, I took some aligned action towards it. But the big piece I was missing was tapping into the frequency and the emotions and the feelings behind why I even wanted that. Because at the end of the day, you put these things or representations or symbols of experiences that you're trying to cultivate in your life on your board, but why are they on there? And why we try to desire or like manifest or bring or call things into our life in the first place is because we have this belief that we think it's going to make us feel a certain way. And so what's that feeling? Like, what's the emotion behind that feeling that you're trying to cultivate? And I never used to do this. I used to just, start thinking up in my logical brain what I wanted and then filtering it through the lens of what was predictable for my like current finances, my, like whatever limitations I had in my life, I would filter it through that. And several years back, I learned from actually Melanie Anlair. She's like a wonderful coach and she does a lot of energetics. And she explained this really well. And then I had this like aha moment about my manifestation process and my vision boarding process that I was missing some of these key points. So she explains and talks a lot about the field of predictability, possibility, and potentiality. And I realized like most of my vision board items or like manifestations I was calling forward were in the predictable field. So filtering through that lens of like, what's predictable, maybe with a slight little like 10% upgrade. And then some possibility, like that could happen realistically in my life. Realistically, did you see how I put that in there, right? But then there was very few, I guess, desires that I was willing to like put out or plant seeds for, send out into the universe that were in the world of potentiality. Like just postulating what is possible. What could you dream up? Like if it can happen for other people, you hear these stories about rags to riches or people like transforming their inner world completely, then why is it not possible for you? And so that's when I started digging into some of these limiting beliefs. And at this point, I had already done a lot of work on my own subconscious and really trying to get a grasp on what are my limiting beliefs? What are these programs and subconscious beliefs that are running the show behind the scenes that are on autopilot and I'm not even aware of? And After I started this new process of doing my vision boarding, like I was maybe a couple years into it, when I started really tapping into this thought of like, am I filtering this because I think it's predictable? And I noticed as I was curating my board, I would sort of downplay if something seemed like too out there, or like, I don't think it's going to happen in a certain timeline, or like, how would it even happen? Like getting into the nitty gritty details and being a control freak about how it would happen, when it would happen, like, how is that even possible for someone like me based on my current circumstances? And then I just wouldn't put it on there, or I downgrade it. And I just thought, how crazy is that? Like, this is my vision board that I could dream up anything. I can plant these seeds with the universe and hold that frequency, and I'm still downgrading. I'm still playing small. And so that really gave me some clues into some more pieces of my limiting belief and subconscious that I wanted to dig into. So if you go through this process and you notice yourself doing the same thing, or starting to question how that would even be possible for you, that's a clue there's work to do. Like, there's something to be unblocked there. There's some limiting beliefs to dig into, some subconscious programming. And really think about when that first started, that thought or belief first started showing up in your life. And so there's work that can be done around this. Don't downplay, don't play small, don't squish your dreams and squash them and fit them into this neat little box of predictability based on your current circumstances. Dream big. And whatever is standing in your way that makes you not actually believe this is possible for you, that's where your work is. That's where that inner sort of game will play out over the next year. So my process sort of morphed. And now how it starts is with a visualization. So I originally started doing this in, like, I was using YouTube videos. You can find tons, like, search future visualization, future self visualization, or manifestation for a certain year. And I actually liked also to just use certain like hertz or frequency music and just meditate, like get into this deep visualization of what I'm calling in. And I know I'm doing a good job of visualizing when I start to really feel the emotions. Like, I'll notice myself smiling, or like have happy tears coming down my cheeks. And then I know I've hit the mark. Like, if something evokes an emotion in a really strong way for me, that's it. And so it's not just about thinking of the thing. Like, if you're dreaming of a new house or a trip or an experience, or, you know, like even a baby or whatever it might be, it's not about that thing. It's like, how is receiving this going to make you feel? Because we all tell ourselves different stories and narratives about this. And what is that feeling? Like, what's around you? So, like, what smells, what feel, like what textures, what feelings, what emotions, like all the details that help you anchor in to make this feel like so real and grounded in reality. That's what you want. And so when you evoke those emotions, this is the vision that you're holding, because it's not the thing. It's the way that thing makes you feel. It's the emotions it evokes in you. It's the frequency you emit when you're feeling those emotions. So do the visualization and then grab your journal and write down every detail of what you saw in that visualization, what you're calling in, and really focus on those feelings, those emotions, like all of that. And then take the key words from what you've journaled and use that to inform your search on Pinterest. So I love to do this on Pinterest because there's so much available on there, and you can really curate like what you saw in your vision and try to find images that really symbolize and represent that for you. So as you go through, when you see images that really like evoke that emotion and get you back into that feel, like you'll have this feeling. It's like a hit, like you know if that's the one for you. So then I pin those all to a certain board. Like I'll make one, I have one right now going for this year, 2026 vision board. Then I spend a couple weeks just scrolling through that and trying to anchor back into that visualization I had. And I'll notice whether or not the images actually really do anchor me in quickly, because some images might represent something, but it takes a lot of work to make the connection between that image and the emotions that and feelings and frequency that you had in your visualization. And so after I spend a little bit of time sitting with these, I'll curate them out. If they're not anchoring me in, then they're gone. Like, I get rid of them. And if I need to go searching for more, I will go searching for more. Then at the end of the day, once this is all done, and maybe I've spent like a week or two sitting with these images and they all really, like, these are the keepers, these are the ones that really ground me into that feeling, that emotion, that vibration, that frequency that I'm calling into my life, then this is where it gets a little old school, but this works for me. So then I take them and I right click, I save them all to my computer, I open up a Word document, and then I make 6 collages. So they're a paper size, like 1 Word document per collage. And I arrange all the images on there in a way that feels like really good and beautiful, and try to have like a little bit of balance in there between like the different areas of my life. And then I take those and I go get them printed at Staples or wherever you get stuff printed, and I get them printed on like picture quality paper. And then I get a foam board from the dollar store and I arrange these 6, letter size images, papers on my board, trim a little off the edge, and like it's the perfect vision board. And so actually, I have an older one here. I'll just show you. So this is one from a couple years ago, but this is what it ends up looking like. And if you're listening to this podcast right now, like, you probably can't even tell just by glancing at it that this is actually 6 printed images all in a collage. But each of these images represents like a really strong emotion for me. And when I look at this, like, I don't look at things outside of me that I'm trying to achieve. I look at and I see images of experiences and emotions that I'm trying to bring forward in my life right now. And it actually makes me emotional looking at it, because like so many of these are grounded in freedom, connection, like these values that I have, family, and it's not really things. Like, almost all of these are like experiences, like, and what I vision for each of these, like, this has a meaning to me that you might see this picture and it might not have the same meaning to you. And for me, it's just beautiful. Like, they're all images of like deep connection and also like self-care and following your passions. And so that's what it ends up looking like. And I think having everything that you're striving towards centered around these core values and this like deep inner, I guess, calling and vision that you're holding for yourself is so important. It changes the game completely than just being things you're striving for. It is way deeper than that. And absolutely, we need to take aligned action on this. Like, we can't just, set it and forget it. In a way, we do need to do that to some degree. We need to surrender this to the universe and not try to micromanage how they're coming in, what timeline they're coming in on. They need to be things that you deeply desire. There is a strong meaning behind why you put something on this vision board and why you even held it in your vision to begin with. There is a strong connection to the why, the meaning, the feeling, the emotion behind it, so that if it's not arriving yet, you have the staying power to still desire it. Like, it's not something fleeting that if it doesn't come in the next 6 months, like, don't want it anymore. Because maybe those are things that, like, yes, you're manifesting, but they're not your big vision. Like, what's your big vision, your big dream that you're going to want and you're going to work towards and you're going to take inspired action towards, even if it's not here yet? And the other piece that this process really unlocked for me is getting crystal clear on the fact that while this vision I have and these experiences and milestones and even different like materialistic things that I've placed on my board, although I don't even think, okay, there's a hot tub on there. That's one thing that's on there, but that's the only thing that's materialistic on here. But regardless, it's the knowing now that there is not a version of me now that's like not deserving of that, and a version of me in the future that's suddenly deserving of that. That doesn't come into play anymore. And I also understand now that this version of me right now, who's like putting this vision out into the universe and calling this forward, I don't need to wait until that experience, those things, these opportunities flow into my life to feel that feeling of why I was even striving for this in the first place. I now know that I can tune into that energy, that feeling, that frequency now. And this is where the visualization comes back in. So why I find visualization so important and so life-changing is if you're going deep and you have those tears or you're smiling and you're feeling those emotions that the visualization is bringing forward for you, well, guess what? That means you're in that vibration, in that frequency now. And what that means is that you're becoming an energetic match for what you desire. So if you're already feeling the feelings now, and however often you can anchor yourself back into that feeling, you are going to magnetize those desires to you. While you're striving for them, they are magnetized towards you as well, because you are becoming an energetic match, a frequency match for that which you desire. And that didn't land for me for quite a few years. But the more I do this, and the more I'm super picky and careful and curate what goes on that vision board, the more often and the quicker I can anchor back into that feeling and that frequency just by looking at my vision board. And I don't always look at the whole thing. I will focus on one or two that like are calling me in that moment. And I will allow myself to close my eyes or really picture and feel and hear and just like experience what I think it would be like. And that right there gets me right back into the frequency. And suddenly you're going to notice these things compounding and speeding up and coming into your life and just flowing. And sometimes time goes by, or like once in a while, I will add things to my board between doing this process, between actually like printing them out and putting them on my physical board. And then I'll look back and I'll realize like how many experiences actually came to life for me. And it's just like really beautiful. And I hope you try this process. And what's super interesting, I had the best example of being crystal clear on what I'm putting on there and what it represents or symbolizes in my vision. Because for a few years now, my husband and I have been searching for an investment property. And, you know, for a few months or every so often, like a house will come up and we'll take a look and it's not quite the right fit. And this has happened for quite some time, but it hasn't been something like I'm pushing and prying and trying to force to happen. But I do really want it to happen. And then as I was kind of looking to the year ahead and I was scrolling back through my vision board images, I noticed that even I was unclear about whether some of these images I had put on there to represent an investment property were for an investment property, or was it a house for us, or like it wasn't super clear. So I took a few minutes and really got clear on what it was that I was calling in. And so I added just a few images to my board that were crystal clear to me. This represents an investment property. One of these images was someone holding keys and there's a white kitchen behind them. And for me, like that's not my dream kitchen. It's nice, but it's not my dream kitchen. And I know that's the investment property for me. That represents the investment property. And then I also got crystal clear and put like a few words on there, like, investment property probably. I can't remember the exact details. Within 3 weeks, I saw a listing where I thought, ooh, this one looks super promising. Like this might look the most promising that I've seen come up in at least a couple years. So my husband and I message our realtor and we say, we want to see this. This is mid-December. So like life's busy. We've got Christmas stuff going on, like not even ready for Christmas. And he says, sure, we can go see it tomorrow night. But just so you're aware, there's already an offer on it, but they've agreed to not make any decisions until you see it. So we go and see it. And it was a very similar experience to when we bought our house, where we walked in, we looked around, we both looked at each other and we're like, yeah, we want it. What do we need to do? And so we wrote up an offer that night. And to me, this is just fascinating. So we had to wait. Everything just like felt like it was meant to be. It just like happened very quickly. But obviously there's this fear that like, oh, we might not get it. There's another offer. And then after the time had expired, like it was supposed to be noon the next day, we still hadn't heard back. And so we kind of both thought, well, like I guess it wasn't meant to be. Like that's a little disappointing if we don't get it. But like, I guess it's not meant to be. Like really holding that energy that if it's meant to be, it will flow into place, like it'll work out. And then we find out that we actually did get our offer accepted. And I just thought how fascinating, because we've been calling this forward for quite some time. And only a few weeks prior, I got crystal clear and made sure the universe knew exactly what I was asking for. And the craziest thing about it, which I sent this like screenshot to a few of my friends, was the kitchen in the upstairs of this investment property almost to a T matched that image that I had just put on my vision board. And I just thought, wow, this is like the best example and like one of the quickest manifestations that have come in through like creating this super clear clarity on what I'm asking for, what I'm calling in, and then it showing up. And there's been so many, like there's been trips, like our entire elopement just like manifested out of nowhere and fit my vision board to a freaking T. Like so many experiences. Our dog, like just too many to list. And that's why I love this. That's why I love this process. That's why I love playing in this magic. And I really do think it's about really buying into the belief and really feeling that you don't have to wait. Like life isn't suddenly going to be better when this thing comes in. Like you will have grown to a version that can hold that. You will be a match for that. And that's why it feels so good. And I think that so many people, and for years, like I fell into this trap of I will be happy when, and giving all our power away to these circumstances and saying like, I'll be happy when I move or get a new job or I lose 10 pounds or whatever it is. And that's circumstantial power. Our personal power is that I choose. I have the conscious choice to feel that way now. And so applying some of that to this vision boarding process is just like icing on the cake. It's so amazing. And I really find that these images, if you really take the time and carefully curate them, they quickly anchor you back into that feeling. They'll bring tears to your eyes. They'll make you smile, they'll make you happy, feel joyful, whatever. That's what you want. And you want to tap into this as much as possible. And you saw, I just grabbed that from in front of my desk. So this will live there until I replace it. And I'm in the process of that right now. And I'm really being intentional with these images that I choose to represent that this vision I'm holding for myself. And I just feel so lit up about it. And like, you don't need to rush. You don't need to force this. Let it flow and do some of that work around the limiting beliefs and the unblocking that goes along with this. Like, let this be the work. Let this start that for you and let it show you where you need to do a little bit more self-exploration, or where you're playing small, or where you might be holding yourself back or hanging on to these old identities, or even like putting things on your damn vision board that aren't even your vision. They're expectations other people in your life have for you. So if that's your case, filter those ones out. Like if you're doing it because someone expects that, society expects it, your parents expect that of you, if you're putting it on there because you should want that, think again. Think deeply about what you desire, what you want. Like, lead from your heart. This process should be heart driven, not what looks pretty on the outside, what looks nice to the outside, or like what you think people will give you external validation for. That's a big one. Like if you're putting something on your vision board, ask yourself if you're putting it on there because you feel like you will be accepted, you will belong, or people will admire you, or any other form of external validation rather than an internally driven motivation, because those are going to be fleeting. And guess what? If it is for an externally driven purpose, like you're seeking validation outside yourself, when it arrives, it won't feel like you think it will. You're going to be dreaming about the next thing right away because it's not going to hit the same. It's not going to feel the same as if it's something that's internally motivated, that's aligned with your soul. And each and every time you do this process, honestly, like you get crystal clear on where you're going and what your soul craves. Like what at a deep soul level are you desiring? And really that'll give you a lot of clues into your soul purpose and following your passions. And it's just, a beautiful unfolding. And I just hope that this unlocks something for you. It really did for me. And if you're doing it still the old school magazine or just slapping something together to say you did it, think again. And also one other hack that I really, really love is taking an image of this. I'm sure there's like higher tech ways to do this, but setting it as your wallpaper and then keeping it. Like I love keeping my old ones because I look at them and I realize how much I've evolved, like, and how much my life has changed, whether it be on the outside, but like also on the inside. The way my desires have shifted really reflect that inner work that I do each year as I unblock more and more limitations and subconscious beliefs that no longer resonate with who I am now, this version of me, and where I'm going. And I just think it's a really beautiful thing to spend some time in reflection, but also to see like a physical evidence of who you were and what your desires and beliefs were and where you are now and where you're going. I just love it. I'm such a visual person, so I just love it. I hope this helps and don't feel like you're too late. I really encourage you to do this and make this the year that you shift from slapping things on a board because you think you should want them or you think they're predictable for you versus aligning this with your soul's purpose, your calling, your internally driven motivation. So happy vision boarding and happy new year. And I really just am excited to spend time with you guys all this year and play in the magic and just make 2026 the best year yet. I am so grateful for you tuning in and being here with me today. I would be so grateful if you would leave me a review or subscribe on Apple or Spotify. It helps me reach more people. This podcast is all about spreading more light and love and positive energy in the world. And if you can help me do that, that would be fantastic. I would also love to stay connected with you. If you come join me over on Instagram, you can find me at @_rising rebel. I hope to connect with you soon. Thanks.